Hello, book besties, and welcome to my channel. I'm Maddie, and today we're going to talk about some books. I am honestly so glad that it's finally April. I feel like March went by really slowly, and not in the oh my gosh, this month is just dragging along, please make it stop kind of way, but in a it feels like I read the books I read at the beginning of the month like 3 years ago and not 30 days ago. So it feels like it just has lasted forever. So I'm glad we're finally in April, even if that does mean that final projects and papers and stuff are starting to approach in school and classes. But it's okay because April means we're getting slightly closer to warmer weather. And warmer weather means reading outside, and that means happiness and joy. So there's some ups and downs, but I'm excited. That's literally not the point. We're here to talk about books. I need to recognize that. So, let's talk about some books. I read a total of 14 books in March. Yep. Yeah, that happened. Before you get too impressed though, I will disclaim. Is that a word? I'm going to use it. I will disclaim that a lot of them were fairly short. One of them was long, very, very long, and I will dive into that one. But a lot of them are around like 300 pages, some of them even less, so don't get too impressed by the fact that I read 14 books, okay? Because some of them felt like it was cheating it a little bit, I will say. But they were still good, and I can't wait to talk about them. I will say my lowest rating of the month was a 2.5 star. I feel like that's not bad sticking to my average. I don't know. I feel like it's good to have lower ratings and higher ratings. Like that's a good reading month for me. A month full of 5 stars just doesn't seem possible. And like, I don't know. I think it's good to have like lower ratings to balance out the higher ratings because that gives you meaning for the higher ratings and something to base the rating off of. And this is a rant that is not needed. So we're going to move on to my first read of the month. That was the Argonautica, or Jason and the Golden Fleece by Apollonius of Rhodes. That one was for my classical epics class. I've actually seen like a lot of different titles for it, weirdly enough. We call it the Argonautica in class though, so that's what I'm gonna go off of. It follows Jason as he goes to find the Golden Fleece. He is a character that Jason from Heroes of Olympus is named after, and the Golden Fleece is what they find or are looking for in the Sea of Monsters by Rick Riordan. Me comparing every Greek myth that I read and hear about to something that happens in Percy Jackson is just so real of me, honestly. I don't know what else you expect from me. So, but it was okay. I will say I didn't expect to like Medea so much. Girl was a victim of Aphrodite and her stupid love magic. So I feel bad for her. Like, no wonder she tried to kill Jason and the Lost Hero. I would too. I would hate everybody with the name Jason if my life was ruined in the same ways that hers was. So, just saying. But I didn't end up rating that one. I don't really know how to rate classical epics. Kind of feels like a weird one. I am not a classicist. It's something that I'm reading for a class, which I always feel weird rating because, like, yeah, I'm being forced to read it. And yeah, it's not like the typical books that I read, but I didn't hate my time. I actually liked this one a lot less than the Odyssey, but that was mainly because of the writing. That's just like a me thing. It's hard. If you're a student, I'm sure you understand, or if you've ever been a student, I'm sure you can understand. And then just like doing school reading with my fun reading and wanting to include everything in my wrap ups, and that includes school reading. So, yeah. And then I read One Step Too Far by Lisa Gardner. This one I really enjoyed. I was not expecting to enjoy it. So, okay. This is actually the second book in a series, but it's like interconnected standalones. And I read this one for a very specific reason, and it was for my job. I just want to say that for my reasonings of messing up a series and starting yet another series. I'm sorry. it's a problem that we will face one day, and that day is not today. This book follows Frankie Elkin. It's actually called the Frankie Elkin series. She is I don't even know how to describe this. So she has dedicated her life basically to solving cold cases of missing people, like old cold cases. And she's so used to just like looking for a body, like she's only ever found one person alive because they're old cold cases of missing people. I mean, typically in that case, there's a reason they're still missing, and it's because they're not alive anymore. So that's kind of like what her life just is now. She doesn't get paid for it, she just does this on her own. She picks up random bartending jobs to pay for everything, and one day she decides to go to this small town in Wyoming, and I forget the town name, but it's by Shoshone National Park, and she is there looking for a missing hiker. I think it was been 5 years since he went missing in the woods with his bachelor party. So she joins this team, which includes the guy's dad, three of the members of the bachelor party, a Bigfoot hunter, a former ranger of the woods, like he's like kind of like a professional at hiking those woods, and he's kind of the one leading this expedition. And then this one lady who I think she like works in like search and rescue cases, and she has her dog, a search and rescue dog, Daisy, and she's the cutest little thing. I loved her. And it just follows them going into the woods, and like as they're going into the woods, Frankie's like, I think this is like suspicious. Like, I think one of you did something. And I was just like thinking about it. Guys, oh my gosh. They're in the woods, middle of the woods, hiking, like deep in the woods, and things just start going crazy. Imagine your like worst fear while hiking and just like multiply that by 10, and that's what this book feels like. This book definitely made me feel like I never wanted to go hiking again, which isn't hard to do. I don't love hiking, but like this book, never going in the woods. Nope. And there's so much more I want to share, but I can't because I don't want to spoil anything. Like, you need to go into this book not expecting anything, and it will just absolutely blow your mind like it did mine. In case you can't tell, I did rate this a 5 star. It ended up being my second 5 star read of the year, and my first one of the month because there is another one in this wrap up. Literally so cool. 2 5 stars in a month. Who is she? But anyways, absolutely adored this book. I really enjoyed Frankie. I enjoyed her interactions with the other characters and this sort of trauma bond that happens between them all. Frankie is just like this lost person, like going from place to place, and it hurts me. And I need her to find her found family, pretty much. So I do want to go back and read the first one, and I believe the third one is out as well. Not entirely sure, but I believe from my memory, which isn't the most reliable source, but I believe it's out. We're gonna look it up. It also makes me want to read more of Lisa Gardner's books because I'm pretty sure she's one of the like classic mystery authors that has just like a mass amount of books. Like her backlist is crazy, but like I'm tempted. That might be a future thing though. Okay, yeah, so there are 3 books out right now. Steel Trap. And the fourth one is coming out in August. Aww! The fourth one's coming out the day after my birthday, guys. That's so cool. I did borrow this one physically from my library, actually from my school library, which I don't utilize that often because it's kind of confusing there. Like, the way they organize things doesn't make sense, and it drives me crazy. But I think I would get the series if I can find them in good condition used. I went to our used book sale with our library, with our like local public library, and I found it, but it wasn't in that great of a condition, so I didn't end up getting it. But I will definitely keep my eye out in the future, in like future bookstores that have used books, because I feel like that's one like that I actually might end up finding. So we're gonna keep an eye out and move on. So next I read The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo, and it physically hurts me to say that this was my 2.5 star read of the month. I absolutely adore Leigh Bardugo, okay? At this point, I have read like every one of her books that is out. I will continue to read anything that she writes. I just didn't like this one. I honestly don't know if I could tell you what it was about. Okay, there's this girl. This is like a historical period. I don't remember when, but it was like way back when. And this girl is living in this like very like Spanish Catholic country, and she's Jewish, so she has to hide that. But there's also the fact that she has magic that I think ties into her Jewish roots. That part confused me. And she is a lowly housemaid for this really rude rich woman. And the rich woman figures out her magic and starts using her as a show at her dinner parties because the rude rich woman is also kind of a boring hostess. And, she just wants to be rich. She wants to be a rich lady, and, who can judge her? So she needs this maid to perform magic tricks to get people to want to come to her party so she can get invited to other parties and get in on that social scene. Well, the king finds out about the magic and she's forced to enter this competition. I never really understood what the competition was for. But there's this competition. She's competing with 3 other magic users to become the king's something. Magician? Don't really know. So she has a guy funding her. There's a word for it. I know I cannot remember the word. And he has his own magic guy. He's kind of weird and creepy. And so, of course, love happens. Love. Can you call it love? It feels more like lust to me. And then more things go down. And I'm like thinking about the plot. I actually remember a lot about the end. Obviously, I won't say it because I don't want to spoil it. But like, I don't even know how we got from the beginning to that ending. But we did. We endured. I didn't really like this book, in case you can't tell. I just was kind of bored with it. I didn't really feel a connection to any of the characters. I was kind of confused. I will say the atmosphere was really cool. Some of the scenes were really cool, and there was obviously something about it that made me rate it a 2.5 and not lower, but I can't really remember what that was. It was just, it's there. It existed. I didn't necessarily not like it, but I didn't necessarily like it. So it's sitting at a 2.5. I think I originally rated it a 3, which makes sense with it being like neither here or there, but like I definitely didn't like it that much. Like it's more leaning to the less liking side. And I did read this one on my Kindle. I actually read it. Okay, funny. So if you don't know, I work at a bookstore with my university and I do a weekly recommendation video. I feel like I say this a lot, but if you're new watching me saying I read for work, I feel like I need to explain that. And I read The Familiar because I brought in The Familiar because it was a Goodreads nominee last year for, I think, Best Fantasy. And I'm trying to read like all the books that we have so I can recommend them for my weekly recommendation videos. And so I read this, didn't like it. Turns out we sold the book anyways, so I couldn't have done that. Anyway, so it's still good that I read this because it caught me up on Leigh Bardugo's work. And again, she's a queen. I love her. I will read anything that she writes. I just happen to not like this one. Unfortunate, but it does happen. Next, I read Everything We Never... Oh, wait, no, I have this one physically. I have like 2 books physically. This is one of them. I read Everything We Never Had by Randy Rebay. This one was actually really interesting. So this one is a really old arc from Penguin Teen. I'm still trying to catch up on them, and this one is actually in a reading vlog if you want to see me reading it. I read it in like 2 days. Barely even that. I probably read this in like 24 hours. What can I say? It's really short and really easy to read. There's no bragging to be done here. So this book is actually really interesting. It follows like 4 generations of this family. And the first generation came from, the Philippines. I'm pretty sure it's the Philippines. Yep, okay, the Philippines. Steel trap right here, guys. He just left the Philippines, is living in California on these labor farms, not very good conditions, and he becomes kind of like a activist. And then the second generation kind of is raised by this father who's never there, kind of hates his heritage, and has a different understanding about family and being a man. And the third generation is a professor, or maybe just a history teacher, but he loves his heritage. He has a really hard relationship with his dad, though, and that like puts a edge on things. And then fourth generation is this kid in high school, and he grew up with his like dad who loves their Filipino culture and a Hispanic mom, I believe. So he just like grew up in a very like culture enriched household, and one day COVID starts hitting, and the third generation, the grandpa of the book, has to move in with them, and they just kind of start to unpack a lot of like generational trauma, I believe that's the term, but it never really is resolved in the end. But I still really did enjoy it. I rated this one a 4.5 star. I just really enjoyed my time with it. I thought it was really eye opening, enriching. I just really liked my time. I liked getting each of the generations, and I liked seeing the moments that led to the impact for the next generation, if that makes sense. I just really enjoyed this one. Definitely recommend it if you haven't read it, which I feel like, I've never really seen anybody talk about this book. So I recommend it. I think it's really good. Next, I read Come Out by Natalie C. Parker, also in that vlog, because it was also another really late arc. And that one I rated a 4 star. This one got weird, okay? Because this is a YA book that is a horror story based off like the concept idea of coming out. Crazy. Literally crazy. So these two friends, I remember one of their name was Fern. Jack. Jack was the other one. Jack with a Q. Because, like, Jacqueline. So they had this friend in junior high. And they went into the woods with said friend. And only Fern and Jack came out alive. However, some weird horror magic stuff started to take place. Because as they left the woods, Fern and Jack started to forget everything about their friendship with this third girl, and they forgot about their queer identities and kind of their journey of coming to realizing they're queer, and like that entire just self-discovery aspect of their lives was just wiped away. And so then we see them, they're in high school, I think senior year, and they're just going on with their straight lives. Like they have no idea that this was a thing. And then as like weird things start happening again, and they start to remember, and they're like, oh, we were friends with that girl, wait, what happened? And then they're also like kind of running away from the problem too, which like I told, like that would be me. I feel like I'm not dealing with this, but like they're forced to deal with it, and it's like the craziest thing ever, like absolutely insane. It didn't have the 5 star feeling for me, but like I still like really enjoyed it. It was crazy. Like I just thought that was just an insane book. Okay, I do wish that we built a little bit more on Fern and Jack's friendship. I feel like that was lacking a little bit. Like if we created more of a found family like the author intended, I think it would have been really good. However, just wasn't there. That's okay. I still really enjoyed it. Okay, next I read Libertad by Bessie Flores Zaldivar. I'm like 99% I'm pronouncing that correctly, but there is always that 1% that means I'm wrong. So I read this one again in that reading vlog. I recommend you go check it out, but I'm also extremely biased, so who's to say? I ended up rating this one a 3.5 stars. Okay, so this follows Libertad. She lives in Honduras during the 2017 election, which I learned a lot about during this book because I didn't know anything about it previously. And it was just a lot of contention in the country with this one political leader and like two different sides kind of fighting each other, and a lot of protests and a lot of tragedy with those protests as well. And this follows Libertad, and she's a teenager during this time, and I also think she's of voting age as well. I can't remember entirely if that's true or not. But her brother also starts to get into the protesting scene, and she is also queer in a very not queer friendly place. and it just has a lot of family drama, and there's like a lot of like crazy stuff. It very much feels like a literary fiction book, and the fact that like not much really happens, it just dives into the lives of these people. I will say it did get me a little bit teary. Her relationship with her brother kind of reminded me of my relationship with my brother a little bit. And so some of the things that were like happening, I was just, uh, oh my gosh, I always pat my shoulder because I can't pat my chest because my mic's right there. Anyways, it just, it hurt a little bit. I will say that. This book wasn't like everything to me, you know, but it was still really enjoyable. Like, I don't really have any major problems with it. I do think some things could have been explored a little bit deeper. Like, this was a fairly short book. We had the room to explore some relationships a little bit more, but also I think if it was longer, I could have easily gotten bored. You know, it's not the perfect book, but I still really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for what it gave me. Like, I learned a lot about this culture during this book, and I really do appreciate that. Books are cool, man. Reading's so cool. So I did enjoy this one, and I definitely recommend that you read it. It's just a really good book. That sounds like something that you're interested in. Definitely go check it out. Oh my gosh. And then I read The Love of My Afterlife by Christy Greenwood, I believe. This was my second 5-star of the month. I I wasn't expecting that to happen. I really wasn't. Cuz this book is just so ridiculous. So it follows our main character, Delphi, and she dies choking on a microwavable hamburger, and she wakes up in the waiting room of the afterlife, and her afterlife therapist is just kind of cuckoo. And while running away from said therapist because of the cuckoo-ness, she runs into this really hot guy in the waiting room of the afterlife. And, you know, there's sparks. There's immediate sparks. And then our cuckoo afterlife therapist comes out and she's like, "Oh, you're not supposed to be here." Sends the guy back to the living and looks at Delphi and she's like, you guys had like a lot of chemistry in that 5 minutes. I think that's like really impressive. And I'm obsessed with rom coms, so I'm gonna send you back down to Earth for 10 days. You have 10 days to get this guy to kiss you, like unprompted. He has to kiss her, and she gets to come back to life. It's this weird clause thing in the afterlife law. It's allowed to happen. And Delphi's like, yes. Like, how can you say no to that? She doesn't want to be dead. She's like 25. So she says yes, and then starts her 10-day journey of trying to track down this guy. She has no information, just knows his first name. Okay, a main part of her character, she's very cut off. Like, she doesn't have a lot of friends. She doesn't have a life. I related to her on a painful level sometimes. And along the way of trying to, like, track down her soulmate, she makes friends. And it's so cute. And of course, she falls in love along the way. This is an adult romance book, and it's just perfect. I don't know what to tell you. Her relationships with the other people, like the other characters, sent me. I adored them. I just was kicking my feet and giggling that entire book. And both my lights just went off, so now the lighting sucks. But you just have to deal with that. Like I said, this book is ridiculous. As much as it sounds ridiculous, it lives up to that. That didn't make any sense, but we're gonna go with it because that's all I can think about right now. I just really enjoyed this book. It was another Goodreads nominee from last year for Best Romance, and I also read this one for work. Also on my trusty little Kindle here. And of course, I ended up recommending it for my weekly recommendation video because how could I not? Guys, y'all need to go read that book. Okay? And if you have, talk to me about it. I feel like there's a lot of mixed reviews about this book, and that's understandable because this book was ridiculous in the best of ways. And if you didn't like it, I can totally see why. I just happened to adore it. I got a light situated. It's my old ring light. Because these lights on my new tripod don't have the best life, like battery life. Battery charging life, I don't know. They're not the best, but I do love the tripod. Anyways, we're moving on. The next 3 books I read were every time. Jujutsu Kaisen volumes 19, 20, and 21. Those ones were really good. I'm trying to remember what happened in them. Oh yeah, I almost cried. Guys, no character in this series has plot armor. So, like, they're all subject to die, and I'm just waiting for all of them to die at this point because they all keep dying. Especially if you have a favorite one. Dead. Anyways, yeah, so we're gonna move on to another insane read. And that is The Eyes Are the Best Part by Monica Kim. Read this one for work. It was another Goodreads nominee from last year for best horror. This one is an adult horror. And I will give you a second to just like look at the cover. Yeah. I feel like that sums up this book pretty well, actually. This follows our main character as she is going into her first year at college and her entire family life is just falling apart, and it kind of just like sends her into this madness. Like, this book is a descent into madness, and it also has such an unreliable narrator, and that just like is slowly built on throughout the book. And the more you read, the more you're just like, this girl is insane. And it's just one of the most craziest books I've ever read. It's insane. I will say, I do love it when horror books aren't just like pure horror, but they have other messages and themes going along with them. So, our main character is Korean. She's Korean American, and some of the themes follow along the stereotypes and perspectives of the Korean culture from the outside perspective, and it kind of creates a horror story out of it. And it's really cool. I really enjoyed this one. It does have a nice, healthy dose of feminine rage to it, and a lot of crazy stuff. There are eating of eyeballs that take place in this book. I will say that. Disclaimer, eyeballs are eaten. Which I don't know if I can look at eyeballs the same ever again after the descriptors that takes place here. Craziness. Craziness? Disgusting. Yeah. Anyway, did I say what I rated this one? I rated this one a 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed it. Didn't quite have the 5-star feeling. Maybe I feel like part of that lies in with the characters. Like, I feel like it's really hard to get connected to the characters, and that carries like a lot of weight for me. Like, that will make a 5-star book for me. So it makes sense. But I like, this book was so well written. It was so well plotted. It was so good. And I definitely recommend it. If you're looking for a good horror book, it's also super short, quick to read. I couldn't recommend it enough. I thought it was really good. And then my second physical book, and last one, unfortunately, is The Penelopead by Margaret Atwood. Okay, it's kind of hard to describe. Okay, so Penelope from the Odyssey is dead in this book, and this just follows her in the afterlife, looking back on her life, and a couple of random things in the afterlife. It's very interesting because, you know, she obviously lived in ancient Greece, but she has references to modern day culture, kind of being like, oh, kind of like back in my day we had this, but now you guys have that. And that's like the comparison. And I thought that was really cool. It was just really interesting. I rated this a 3-star. You know, it was just kind of there. You know, I read it. It was enjoyable. I feel like that makes a 3-star read. Obviously, super short. This is like less than 200 pages. I read it though because I'm going to write a paper on it. So wish me luck with that as I dive into that. It feels weird. I don't have much to say about it. That was that. Next, I read so many like short books, and then I read this like 900-page monstrosity. Like, this book was a brick. This book could build the most stable house. And that is Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas. I did it. I have officially finished the Throne of Glass series, and I'm happy to report that this one was a 4-star read. I really like this one. It actually might be my favorite in the series now. And I want to do like a breakdown, like a ranking breakdown on my channel of the Throne of Glass series because it's so well known at some point. That won't be anytime soon though, because I have plans for April. But I did really enjoy it. If you don't know about the Throne of Glass series, it follows Celaena Sardothien, who is an assassin, but she was captured and taken to this like slave labor camp, and she's brought out of the slave labor camp by the king, who is looking for a champion to do all of his dirty work for him. And so like the prince is like, I choose that one to compete in this competition to determine the champion. And you just dive into this world of fae and magic. I feel like that was not a good explanation, but that's like the best I have for you. Kingdom of Ash was really long, but I feel like it was kind of justifiably long. I don't think it could have been broken up into two books. I think I enjoyed like the pacing and everything. It's just hard to work with that. Like there's so many pages, I feel like you're bound to feel bored at some point. And I was definitely pushing myself to finish it because I wanted to finish it by the end of March, and I definitely did, and ended up fitting in another book of the month too. So I think I did great. I loved the character conclusions that we had. I loved the final battles that we got. I will say the final battle with the big baddie, it felt a little anticlimactic. I will say that. I think I was kind of hoping for a little bit more than, we're gonna beat you with the power of friendship. Because that's what it felt like. Which I feel like is both fitting and unfitting to the series. So, this series was a whole up and down on feelings for it, and that is a video for the future. But I enjoyed Kingdom of Ash. I actually ended up really liking this book. There were some scenes where I was just like on the edge of my seat. I got really invested in the characters because I've been with them for so long at this point. Like, it's hard not to be invested. Even in Kale, nope, no, can't say I was invested in him. Yrene more so. Kale, I still couldn't care less. That's, again, a whole other video for the future. Yeah, I finally did it. I really enjoyed it. So I'm both very satisfied and proud of myself. And then we're going to move on to the final book of March, and today's video, I finished it 20 minutes before filming this video. Doing great. And that is Margot's Got Money Troubles by Rufi Thorpe, I believe. So I picked this book up wanting to read it for work, a common theme in March, and I don't think I can for very obvious reasons. So this book follows our main character, Margot, as she is in college and she develops a pregnancy due to her professor and ends up dropping out of college to keep the baby. And in order to pay for the whole baby situation and her two roommates moving out, she decides to start an OnlyFans, and her former pro wrestler dad moves in with her as well. And this book is crazy to me because it has like the most, like, it has the deepest lines about humanity and what it's like to be a human and trying to get people to fall in love with you, and then have the most raunchiest, outrageous lines like the next paragraph. And I just found that absolutely insane. Like, it was insanity. I don't even know how to describe some of the moments in this book. I will say it was very interesting sometimes because she is a creator on OnlyFans and is kind of trying to become a content creator on other platforms as well to get more people to go to her account. And it brought up like a lot of interesting things about like content creation. I don't know, she stated it very well of like, you're trying to get people to fall in love with you in your account. And she has a desire to, I guess, kind of become internet famous and become rich off of that. And part of it so she can like stay home with her kid, who is adorable. And like the other part's just like that desire, which I feel like is, I don't know, so well understood by this culture. And I mean, I could relate to it. I'm sitting here doing a YouTube channel and posting on Bookstagram like every day and trying to gain a following and trying to create a community and striving to become like my favorite booktubers. So like in a really weird way, I could find myself relating to her and what she said, which was just so bizarre, and I wasn't expecting that at all considering her being an OnlyFans content creator. One really interesting thing about this book though is it bounces between first and third person. And it's kind of her in the moment versus her in the future looking back on that moment and telling her story. And Margot's kind of like a little bit of a writer too. And you can see that reflected in the way that she does her content creation and the way that the book is told. And it very much feels like it's coming from Margot, even if it's not in first person. And I just thought that was really interesting and impressive. And I think Rufi Thorpe did a great job with that. I will say this one did end up being a 3.5-star read. I enjoyed it. I genuinely enjoyed it. I do think it got a little bit weird and uncomfortable at sometimes, but like it was supposed to. So I can't judge it for that. And it did make me anxious at times because it did feel like the real life situations are happening here. And I won't dive into that because again, you just have to read to find out so you can experience that anxiety as well. But it did give me a little bit of anxiety. And not like the good book kind of anxiety, but like the bad kind of like a this is stressing me out kind of way. But it was really good. I don't think it was like meant for me at some points, but like that's okay. Like that's completely okay. Like nothing against the book for that. For me not being the target audience. But like maybe I am the target audience. Girl's 20. I'm 20. I don't know. I have a lot of mixed feelings about this one. But 3.5-star feels like the correct rating for it, so that's what I'm going to go with. And sometimes you just gotta like rate based off feeling instead of logic. Like when in doubt, go with your little book heart. And yeah, those are all the books. Those are all the 14 books that I read in March. Absolute craziness. I don't know what to tell you. I feel like I never know how to end my videos. Those are all the 14 books that I read in March. I would love to know how your March went, both reading wise and just life wise. Yap to me in the comments. What was your favorite book in March? What was your least favorite book in March? I would just love to know. If I would also love to know if you've read any of these books as well. I would love to talk to you about them. I love yapping about books. Kind of why I'm here. Oh, yeah, I actually am not finished. Okay, I'm not gonna share my April TBR, and it's not because I don't have one, but because something very special and interesting is gonna be happening in April. And if you wanna know more about that, go check out last week's video where I talk about my April reading plans and all the fun, cool, amazing, exciting stuff happening in April. And I also have some fun, amazing, cool, interesting videos that I'm planning as well that will be involving a very special guest. My hair is messed up. Ignore that. I can't wait for you guys to see them. So, okay. I'm done now. I'm done. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this video. As always, please like, comment, and subscribe below. And I will see you guys all next week. And I won't be alone. I won't be alone. Okay. Bye.